Welcome to this explainer on the 2026 Women's Volleyball Nations League bronze medal match. We're going to break down some absolutely insane momentum swings and next-level tactical adjustments today. We are looking at a battle that was just brimming with resilience, strategy, and these completely heart-stopping rallies. So let's just dive right into this and unpack exactly how this incredible matchup unfolded.
So, let's set the stakes for this matchup. This wasn't just any game, right? We're talking about a situation where the reigning two-time VNL champions, Team Italy, had to dig deep and find a second wind. If you've ever competed at a high level, you know exactly how incredibly hard it is to bounce back mentally after a really devastating semifinal loss. But man, they were fighting tooth and nail to secure a spot on that podium and basically prove they still belong at the very top of the international volleyball hierarchy.
And that sets up our initial clash of titans. We've got the heavily favored Italians in classic blue going up against a highly motivated Chinese squad in red. Now keep in mind, China wasn't just any challenger here. They were the home team. They were playing right in Macau. The pressure, the crowd, the massive expectations, the atmosphere in that arena was absolutely electric from the very first whistle.
Let's get into set 1, flying out of the gates.
When this match kicked off, Italy clearly wanted to make an immediate statement. In just the first 10 minutes, they came out absolutely flying. They shut down any of those whispers that they might be fatigued or demoralized. But, it wasn't a walk in the park. The sheer power of the Chinese offense was definitely lingering in the minds of the Italian defenders. In fact, this is perfectly captured by a pre-match anecdote from Agonmani Silva, who actually admitted she still has nightmares about trying to defend against the Chinese offense. Italy had to execute flawlessly to overcome that mental and physical hurdle. And execute flawlessly is exactly what they did. You had Navonini out there putting on an absolute clinic with these technically sound swings, and she was brilliantly changing up her angles. Then, you mix in Sarah Farah executing this incredibly deceptive soft touch right through the middle, followed by some massive swings from Zilla that were directly targeting Speedito. Why does this offensive diversity actually matter? Because when you're constantly changing angles and mixing raw power with soft touches, it completely disrupts the opponent's defensive timing. And all of this culminated in a brilliant ace by Zilla to take set 1 on the very first time of asking.
So with Italy taking that opening set so decisively, literally throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the home team, a massive question loomed over the arena. Does China have a response? How on earth is the home team going to adjust to stop this blue wave of momentum?
Moving on to set 2, adjustments and retaliation. Well, China's answer was to take control of the tempo. Right in the middle part of the set, they stabilized their reception, digging really deep to create some much-needed transition opportunities. And they made 3 major shifts here. First, they began misdirecting the sets specifically to pull the Italian blocker Sarah Farah completely out of position. Second, doing that created these isolated one-on-one matchups for their hitters. And finally, Sean made this tiny micro-adjustment, dropping the ball height just a fraction. By speeding up the attack with a slightly lower ball, they managed to sneak right past Ruzi's block before she could even set up. These were brilliant tactical adjustments, and it allowed China to build a very comfortable 5-point lead. Now, Italy didn't just roll over, of course. They managed to close that gap slightly with a fantastic heads-up transfer play. They shifted the ball super quickly out of system to Farah, who was looking for Gong, and they pulled back to within just 1 point. But China's adjustments paid off when it mattered the most. They held on to take an incredibly tight, hard-fought set 2, 25-23. So we officially had ourselves a tied match.
That brings us to set 3, a defensive masterclass.
This set right here became the grueling turning point of the whole match. It turned into an all-out war of attrition where both teams were leaving absolutely everything out on the floor. On one side, you've got Italy's strategy. They utilized their VNL gold medalists in double sub-roles. What that means is they were swapping a setter and a hitter at the exact same time to maintain maximum offensive power at the net. They also brought back Elia Spirito for some crucial back row coverage, and they just kept feeding Antropova on the right side. On the flip side, China countered with this seemingly impenetrable floor defense. They were delivering next-level digs, consistently forcing Italy to make multiple efforts on every single swing, all while Gong was just reliably finding the end line over and over.
Honestly, the rallies in this set became so incredibly exhausting, you half expected the players to ask for a chair. Brute force simply wasn't cutting it anymore. Attackers actually had to rely on pure finesse. It's perfectly summarized by this shift in mentality. If you dig me on the first strong swing, I'll go a little bit gentler on the second. They were intentionally taking the pace off the ball.
They were just desperately trying to find those microscopic spaces between the block and the defense. And that brings us to the crucial final points of set 3. Look, China's defense was heroic. Antropova was repeatedly dug out, denied time and time again by these brilliant Chinese pickups. Italy was essentially forced to work overtime, swinging again and again just to win a single rally. But ultimately, a massive Italian stuff block, literally shutting the ball straight down aggressively onto China's side of the court, turned the tide. Italy ground their way through the exhaustion, they defended the set point, and they finished it off in absolute style with an ace.
With that final, crucial ace, Italy survived what was easily the most stressful set of the entire match. They secured set 3 with a score of 25-22. Make no mistake, this was a massive, massive psychological victory. Taking a commanding 2-1 lead in a bronze medal match, that is a pivotal turning point, and it put China's back firmly against the wall.
Which takes us to set 4, the push for the podium.
Italy came out with this completely renewed vigor. They were looking to definitively shut the door on the home team. They knew they had broken China's resistance in the previous set, and they wanted to push straight for the podium. So how did they finally crack that incredible Chinese defense? By systematically dismantling them. While China's Tongxin tried her best to serve aggressively and keep her team in the fight, Italy forced these incredibly fast balls to 22-year-old Melli at completely different angles. They relentlessly applied heat to the deep corners, basically refusing to allow China any clean returns. And whenever China tried to counter, Italy's front line executed those massive stuff blocks to just completely kill the momentum.
As Italy started to pull ahead, the tension in Macau was palpable. You had a desperate Chinese team, aided by Xu Ming in the mix, starting to utilize challenges on every close play. If you've ever watched a high-stakes review in sports, you know this exact, agonizing tension. They were looking for any microscopic hair touch to keep their medal hopes alive, leading to dramatic reviews confirming things like, no touch, just a fist. You could literally feel the desperation as the match began slipping away from the home crowd.
And that brings us to the final sequence of the match. Italy steps up to serve for the win. True to form, China executes one last, completely valiant defensive pickup, keeping the ball alive. But then, the ball is set to Antropova. She elevates, and she swings high, hard, and deep. It's this devastating, definitive strike that the Chinese defense simply could not return. Match point, Italy.
Just think about the incredible trajectory of this Italian squad for a second. At the start of the match, you had a team reeling from semifinal heartbreak, having to somehow pick themselves up off the floor mentally. But by the end of the match, they had conquered the host nation. They secured the bronze medal against all odds, fighting their way back onto the VNL podium through pure grit and tactical execution. It's really something special.
As we wrap up this explainer, it leaves us with a totally fascinating question to ponder. What does this hard-fought bronze finish mean for Italy's legacy? They entered as two-time defending champions and faced some incredible adversity. We have to genuinely wonder how this grueling test of endurance, this absolute masterclass in tactical adjustment and resilience, will fuel Team Italy heading into the next Volleyball Nations League season. What do you think? Thank you so much for walking through this breakdown with me, and definitely keep an eye on how these tactics evolve in the next tournament.